What made this seemingly normal man snap and make a crazy decision? Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about 77-year-old Kenneth Darlington, American lawyer and professor who deleted two protesters in Panama on the Pan American Highway. Now, this story is crazy, and the video is even crazier. I'm going to show some of it, but I cannot play the entire thing. I will link to that in the box. But before we get to it, first things first, here is the situation. You have the Pan American Highway being blocked by these protesters. Now, some are going to describe them as climate protesters, the same kind of guys and girls you see overseas, especially in Europe, gluing themselves to the ground because of climate, this, that, and the third. Now, in Panama, the situation was a mining contract that could have had some corruption. So some could have been there blocking the road because of the corruption. Some could have been there because of the climate. Ultimately, the result is the same. You have the road, in this case, the Pan American Highway, being blocked by these people. There's a crazy traffic jam. People just sitting in their cars, not being able to go forward because of the blockade that these people put down. Now, here you have Kenneth Darlington, who apparently had enough. He's like, okay, you guys are in the way. You guys are in the road. Now I'm kind of activated. You see the picture of him right here, I think walking toward the protesters, probably before all the violence took place. And here is a picture of him after shooting one of the actual protesters. And as I said, two of the protesters are now deceased. And before I say anything else, prayers out to their family. May they rest in peace. And also, one thing I want to make crystal clear, I don't want anyone to think that I'm advocating for violence or excusing this behavior. What he did was most certainly unnecessary, uncalled for, and unjustified. However, there are some obvious things that could have been done to avoid the whole situation. And I think there are some important takeaways from this to prevent this tragedy from ever happening again. Now, before I go any further, let's get into the actual video of the situation. If you want to see this video in full, of course, the link as always will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. If you want to see the full uncensored version, same thing. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it. And there's no sound here, but we don't really need sound for what's going on. You can see you got the Panamanian flag. You got him coming up. Now, obviously, he's trying to say, get off the road, get out the way. And he's frustrated, just trying to talk. And then he casually goes in his pocket and pulls the gun. Now, let's pause for a minute. When the gun comes out, people can say that it's unjustified for him to do this in a situation. People can say that he should be arrested right here. All those things I understand, and I'm not even disagreeing, but let's just think a little bit rationally. Let's use our logic and let's get into the frame of self-preservation. If I am in the shoes of the climate protesters and the gun comes out, I'm not trying to negotiate with the guy with the gun. I'm at a disadvantage. I'm probably not armed. I'm out here just trying to make a statement, trying to make a point. I don't think my statement or my point is worth potentially losing my life or becoming seriously or permanently injured. So he's waving the gun around. He's trying to tell him, get off the road, get out the road. And again, I'm not trying to excuse the behavior, but let's just think a little bit and understand what should happen after this escalation. Okay, this is a big escalation. Think about what you're doing here. So now he's trying to remove the banner. He took the banner out the way, and he is trying to tell them, okay, get out the road, and they weren't listening. Now, there were some tires in the road. He removed those, and eventually he shot two people right there on the highway, and the police were right there. They took him away. Now he's in jail. And again, he is 77 years old, an American lawyer and professor. I'm not quite sure where he lives in the U.S. when he goes back, and I'm not sure where he taught and or was at the same time teaching when this whole thing happened. So let's just come back here. First of all, again, I'm not trying to condone what he did, but this could have been easily avoided. You got to understand, when you're blocking the road for whatever the cause may be, it could be for green energy, it could be because of government corruption. It doesn't matter why you're blocking the road. I think it's universally accepted that blocking the road is not what you should do. There were two wrongs here. And as you may or may not have heard as a child, two wrongs will make a right. But the first thing shouldn't have happened. The blocking of the road was a provocation. How many miles of traffic do you have? Do you have anybody in those miles of traffic that are in desperate need to get from point A to point B? Is anybody in there suffering from some kind of heat exhaustion? I'm not sure how it is at the equator in Panama, but I'm sure it's not necessarily super cold down there. All right. And not quite the equator, but you understand what I'm saying. You're further down south. I'm not quite sure how warm or cold it is, but I know it's not necessarily like 50 degrees. So I'm just trying to say, you're blocking the road. That's the first mistake. That's the first problem, the first provocation. The next provocation is the old man bringing the gun. But see, without the first provocation, the second one wouldn't have happened. If not for the road blockade, then there's no gun produced, there's no argument, and then you don't have two lives taken. He's not in jail, probably forever. This whole thing could have been totally avoided. And again, I'm not trying to say what he did was right, but it's avoidable. You know, this reminds me of that movie, Falling Down. You ever seen that movie? Really, it's kind of almost like life imitating art, because in that movie, you have the lead character portrayed by Michael Douglas. He's just trying to go through his regular everyday life, and there's figurative and literal roadblocks. One of the scenes, it was a construction worker laying in the ground, just blocking the way, not really trying to do anything. And then Michael Douglas's character is like, you guys just want to lay here and justify the government contracts. He's getting upset with what's happening in society, and he decides to just snap and take matters into his own hands. That's kind of what happened here. And no justification, but it's like, at what point can you just do things like this with no kind of kickback, with no retaliation? You're doing things that are provocative. You wouldn't block the road if it was not provocative, if it didn't get you attention, if it was not a thing that people didn't like. You wouldn't do it because you wouldn't get the attention, and you may think this gets things done, so you'll do something like this. But you got to understand that you can't be so provocative without any kind of kickback, with no kind of feedback. And unfortunately, in this case, the kickback and feedback turned up deadly. So rest in peace to all those who died. And I don't have any justification for what happened, but what do you expect? What do you expect? It's like a bully, really. Now, some may say that the bully is justified, they're doing the right thing, but you're bullying people. And sometimes when people get bullied, they don't like it, and then they retaliate. So if a bully victim retaliates and they go above and beyond what the bully was doing to him, people say, well, the person that retaliated, they're the bad guy, they're the villain. I'm not saying they're wrong, but let's not act like there's no responsibility from the side of the bully. Two wrongs don't make a right, but one thing started the other thing, and that can't be ignored when you look at the person who did this. You can't look at this old man as I close. You can't look at him and say, oh, what he did was terrible, without talking about what led up to it. It's simple as that. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Who do you think was at fault here for what happened? The old man, the protesters, both? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. They were both at fault. And one started it, the other one finished it. The other one did way too much, obviously. He's going to jail where he should be. But let's not act like this wouldn't have happened if not for the people in the road blocking the road. The moral of the story is don't start stuff. Leave people alone. Somebody might think they could just do something to people, do something to someone, and their reaction should be minimal, or they should just take it. But that's not always the case. So my advice to anybody is leave people alone, mind your business. If you do things to people, be ready for this kind of thing to happen. Not justifying it, but you got to be ready if you're going to block the road and be provocative and possibly ruin someone's day, ruin what they got going on, or worse. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.